Okay, so you've Googled a bunch of anatomy videos. You're trying to figure out how you can teach yourself anatomy. Um, it looks a little complicated. Um, it might be time consuming, but it's not actually that complicated. You don't have to look at it like you're a, um, I don't know, med student. You don't have to know all the names of the muscles. You don't have to know how everything works, but you do need to know how everything um, meshes together. So I specialize in sculpture. I taught myself how to sculpt. I taught myself more or less everything I know about anatomy. I did go to an arts high school and I did do a year of university in sculpture. But I think what's important to know is that you can teach yourself anything, especially nowadays where there's 1,000 videos like mine, probably better than mine. Um, but I want to make it simple for you because I wish someone made it simpler for me. You just have to draw, especially with sculpture. Well, with anything, honestly, you just have to draw. You have to be able to dissect or turn. Um, you just have to be able to turn concepts or images into lines and shapes that you can understand and recreate on paper. So if you're able to take, let's say, a pose, like you can Google images of people in poses, models, and you can try and distill what you see into rough shapes. So you've heard this advice before, but the point is that you can understand what you're seeing in a certain language. The language has to be easy to understand visually. So the reason cartoons exist is because these people are able to distill what you understand to be a human face into its bare essentials, but you still know what it is, and it's still very emotive. It's actually more emotive than a photograph or someone trying to make something photoreal, because the language is so well understood that all you're seeing is concepts. So, um, with a lot of my videos, it's male muscular anatomy, because I got my start making superhero sculptures and fan art like that. With human muscular anatomy or male muscular anatomy, what you're looking for is the intersection of muscles. So the way I learned that was by looking at a bunch of images of bodybuilders. The idea was to see what muscles look like when they move. And how I learned that was to just draw it over and over and over again in different ways. So, an easy step by step guide would be you go to the website. Let's say that again. An easy step by step guide would be you go to the website lineofaction.com. It's basically a slideshow, but you can set it in a certain way. So you can choose what kind of images you want. You can choose animals, faces, human faces. You can choose hands, feet, that kind of thing. And you can set it in class mode. I'm suggesting you do class mode because it's my favorite. It can be a short 30-minute class. So let's say you only draw 30 minutes a day, which is still a lot. But if you draw 30 minutes a day, you'll be able to spend that time learning anatomy, but very quickly. So the way class mode works is it starts off with 60-second drawings, or I think even less. It starts off with 30-second drawings that you have to do very quickly of an image you just saw. So the idea is you're forcing your brain to quickly put down what it sees. And when you don't have that much time to think about it, you actually get better results because you're making on the fly decisions about your drawing. And then the more you do it, the better your decisions are and the faster they are. When you have more time, so let's say once you get to the 10-minute drawing at the end, when you have more time, you shouldn't slow down. You should be going as fast. So in the first few seconds, you should have already done most of the gestural work. And that's the point I'm trying to make here, is that even in sculpture, if you are a sculptor, which would be great, I need to know more sculptors, Um, if you are a sculptor, you need to figure out the gesture first. So my technique with human faces, for example, is to make a skull and then work the details and the emotion and everything on top. Because when you're a sculptor, you do have to think of it like an engineer. You are making something that has to be structurally sound, but it also has to be emotive. The human body emotes. You can see it move in a certain way, like in those silent movies like Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin. They emote with their entire body, and it's not out of character for humans to do that, and especially in art, because you have to use everything you see, you have to be able to gesture the body in a way that emotes. So let's say you're making something that has to give someone the feel of pain. Then you have to understand how to twist the human body in a way that makes it look like it's in pain. So the first step is to understand how to lost my train of thought. The first step is to understand how to pose the body, and the best way to do that is to draw poses over and over and over again. Then when you get into anatomy and proportion, it's the same idea, but this time you're drawing the muscles themselves. You could focus on skeletons, and you could focus on the anatomy inside the body. Like if you really want to get detailed, you could try to understand how intestines affect the external appearance of the body. But what I focused on and what helped me with sculpture, because sculpture is a series of shapes that you're recreating, and muscles are a series of shapes. And if you understand each shape individually, you're able to recreate them all in any angle. So this sounds tedious, and it's not if you really want to learn this. It's actually very fun to be able to recreate something from memory. So I'll show you an example of a project I'm working on right now, which I did almost entirely from memory. I used a few images for the pose and things like that, but the way sculpture works is that either you have a 3D reference in front of you that you can look at every angle, or you have a few photos that you have to reference in between. So let's say I have a front photo and a side photo. I need to be able to imagine the in between. So like I can sculpt from the front using my front image, and then I can twist it to the side, use my side image. But in between, I'm not too sure how that should look because I don't have a reference. But the beauty of being able to draw this much and then learn it is that you can just pull it out whenever you need. The idea is that you're being literate. You're teaching yourself a new language that you can use whenever you need it. And I'm not sure if this is easy to understand. Maybe I'm not explaining it properly, but the idea that you can learn this visual language and use it whenever you need is, I think, the goal with sculpture, drawing, painting, anything. So if you didn't get anything out of this video other than go to lineofaction.com, I'm not sponsored, go to lineofaction.com and just draw every day, 30 minutes. By, I don't know, 2 to 3 months, you'll be doing it with your eyes closed. Maybe not, but you'll be able to understand the body so much better than you do now, and it only takes a few weeks before you actually start seeing it in yourself. And I'm not just saying this. I do work at a high school where, as an artist, where I have helped a few of the students there just understand more or less a little more about gesture and drawing by making them do quick drawings. The thing about drawing fast, like I've said, is that it forces you to think a certain way. And once you've been forced to think that way, you can't stop thinking that way. And that's the goal. You want to think not the proper way, but the more efficient way. And you want to think like that from then on when it comes to creating, because it has to be more or less effortless. We talk about a flow in sculpture. We want to be able to get into a flow state. And that doesn't happen when you're stressing about what anatomy should look like and what, I don't know, what your reference says your art should look like. But once you've absorbed all these references and you're able to pull them out whenever you need them, that's the goal. That's the in my mind, that's the goal. That's what makes someone a really great artist, is that it looks effortless, but it's just putting in the reps. For a working out allegory, a mistake I made was that I treated my workouts, my practice, as final pieces. So whenever I made a sculpture, I wanted it to look like a final piece at the end. But in reality, I was experimenting, and you have to experiment. So I think liberate yourself. Don't think that by the end of your line of action 30-minute drawing, by the end of that, don't think that it has to be a good drawing. It's a sketch, it's practice, it's concepts you're trying to understand, it's your rough drafts. And then maybe at the end of that week, once you've done it for 5, 6, 7 days, you can make a final piece and give yourself that time to play and mess up and make things that aren't perfect, because that's the only way you're going to learn, and you're going to stress yourself out much less, like I did. So I hope that helped to anyone. If it did, leave me a comment, and I would love to know what else you need little help with or advice. I'm not saying this as someone who thinks he's an authority on it, but I'm someone who's figuring it out just like you, and being able to help each other out is, I think, the beauty of an online platform like this. So please feel free to tell me what you think.